Morning everyone, and welcome to the Fife Property Show this Saturday morning. So this morning's topic is being a landlord and is buying to let right for you. To help me discuss things this morning, I have letting agent Karen Marshall. Morning, Karen. How are you?
You?
I'm good, yeah. I believe you've just purchased your own property this last week, so you've been really busy.
I have indeed. It's been a very busy week trying to get it all sorted. We are making progress, so happy days.
As long as you're getting there. So I suppose things like obviously the whole purchase process and things, that's, although you deal with it in terms of obviously a work aspect, it's on you as an individual.
It is, yeah, obviously you're so used to giving people advice on how to go about it, but it's so different to do yourself for all your documents and make sure you've got everything all organised and everything in hand for it. So it's a big thing to do anyway.
Yeah, it is. And like you say, documentation and finances and things are all really key factors to have them in place to be able to move forward and keep things progressing. These are a lot of the holdbacks that we find during property purchases, and sometimes how they end up failing if people don't have the right paperwork and finances and have the right people putting things in place for them, like agents and mortgage brokers, etc. So, and that's something that we'll touch on today while we discuss this morning's topic. As I say, this morning's topic is being a landlord and is buying to let right for you. Now, this is taken from our online blog, which is on the Fife Properties website, of the same title, being a landlord is buying to let right for you. We've already got some people. Morning, James, joining us this morning. So I think we'll just crack on, and I'll just run through the intro of the blog, which is owning one or more buy-to-let home is the dream of many people. The idea of passive income, financial security, and building a comfortable retirement is an inviting prospect that for many landlords has led to a complete change in lifestyle and career, because a lot of people do make it their career and it completely changes their lifestyle. And it's all part of some people's retirement plan. Sometimes people do it alongside their current employment, which is great. And a lot of people choose to use agents, some choose to do it on their own, but there's a lot of things you need to take into consideration, and that's what we're going to cover this morning. I mean, alongside all the headline benefits, there are many things to consider before embarking on the buy-to-let journey. And there's plenty of legislation, which you're aware of, Karen, that you need to keep on top of to ensure your rental property stays compliant with every change in the law. And it's also important to remember that being a landlord means that you're actually running a business. And it mentions legislation there, Karen, and we always come back to legislation, but it's so important. And it's a big part of our daily work life is to work around the current legislation and make sure we're up to date with the new legislation. I mean, the importance of legislation to you, Karen, as a letting agent.
It's obviously one of the most important things. It's between you having a valid gas safety certificate and obviously you our landlord that isn't keeping your property compliant, it could result in you not getting your rent paid anymore. So they will contact the tenant and tell them to stop paying their rent, or if they're in receipt of any form of benefits, they'll stop their benefits so there's no money being able to go to you anymore. So making sure your property is kept compliant for the safety of your tenants solely is obviously such an important factor for it.
Yeah, so obviously the safety aspect is the main criteria you need to consider, and first and foremost is tenants that are in the property and their safety. But there's other things that come part and parcel from not adhering to the legislation, and that is that landlords can find themselves in hot water, whether that be fines or that they find that their tenants can then legally withhold rent. And ultimately, I mean, obviously, in the worst case scenarios, you could face criminal charges as well. James is saying there, getting out the corporate 9 to 5 has been one of my aims. I'm not planning to retire, but would like to do more in property. And I think that you're not alone there, James, and I think that's a lot of people's goal when they set out in the buy-to-let portfolio building. I think is that's what the ultimate goal is, to get out of the 9-to-5s and to addition to their retirement, really. So I think firstly, I think if you're going to be looking at buy-to-let properties and building a buy-to-let portfolio is research, and knowing the local markets is a foundation of a successful landlord. Having a handle on which streets rent well, the sort of people that they attract, whether it's families or sharers or couples or even single people. And the level of demand and rents being achieved are crucial components of focusing your search. Obviously, different areas command higher or lower rental prices, and the locations also attract different types of tenants, whether that be, it could be students, it could be families, it could be working professionals. And I think as a letting agent and as well, Karen, we need to obviously take that into consideration when we've got, like, we've got this property, it's in this area, this is going to be your target audience, this is going to be your price point, and that's something that you'll deal with daily as well.
Is obviously we get quite a lot of our landlords coming to us that are potentially looking to expand their portfolio, asking us what this property would be like, how much the rent would be, and what the street's like. And it's knowing, even from street to street, like you have, obviously there's a lot of villages around here and small towns, and you know, for example, like one street can rent very well, and then, for example, one just a couple away from it is not so great. So it's knowing, even not just the area in general, it's knowing like the specific areas from, like, even from street to street, what ones are going to rent better than other ones, and like you say, what kind of tenancies you're going to attract as well. So you see quite a lot, for example, in the Cooper area, you attract quite a lot of working professionals or quite a lot of students as well that maybe don't want to pay the St Andrews prices, so they'll go into Cooper instead. And so it totally depends on what kind of area. And then if you're more kind of Glenrothes, it tends to be like families. So it just depends on kind of what target tenant that you're looking for is for what kind of property you would purchase.
Yeah, and I think a lot of landlords and investors, should I say, that some are out of area and obviously see the prospects in the Fife area but maybe don't live locally. And I think to have an agent on the ground who knows the areas, knows what rental levels you could achieve and what types of tenant you could potentially put into properties is very important to have, and to have that point of contact and keep in communication with them to be able to guide you on the best decisions to make, especially if you're not familiar with an area. There's Jimmy. Morning, Jimmy. So yeah, and that comes back to obviously either having your own local knowledge or building on that, or having somebody in place to do that. Yeah, definitely. And I think whatever location you choose, there's some essential legwork in making sure that the home you have your eye on will make a sound rental investment. And this means putting in the hours, as well as looking at listings online. Going for a wander to get the real feel for the neighbourhood will help you identify suitable properties faster and give you more comfort in committing to a purchase. And like I say, it is good to familiarise yourself with an area if you're going to be purchasing it. If you could do that yourself, then that's great, so that you know that within yourself you're comfortable making a purchase and you think you feel that you've made the right purchase. But if you don't, find a good agent in that area who will do that for you. Some agents might not do that. We do that for a lot of people, and investors come to me and I'm happy to view properties on their behalf, give them advice on areas, give them advice on particular properties, and that is invaluable to a landlord. You can't really buy that, because not all agents provide that. And I think to have agents that are willing to provide you with that kind of advice is really a key factor. Morning, Angela. And then that comes down to, brings me down to networking. And networking, although almost every available property appears to be online and online portals, then there's a little to be approaching estate agents direct and forging relationships. And like what I just spoke about there, obviously with local letting agents and managing agents, it's great to build a relationship and keep in contact with them during that time. Most inquiries come through emails, but most estate agents would much rather talk in person. So picking up the phone to introduce yourself is a great start, and standing out from the crowd and being remembered. And you'll know, Karen, how much email inquiries we go through in a week. And if you're an investor or a landlord who is in all those emails, it's difficult to be lost within just the great amount of inquiries that comes through. So if you're one of these landlords who is proactive and keeps in touch, and then your agent likewise should also, I mean, it's a two-way street to keep in touch with each other, build that relationship, then you're onto a winner. And if things are coming to the market which are going to be potentially good buy-to-let opportunities and investments, you'll stick in their mind. I've got several that I speak to on a weekly basis, and I know what they're looking for. And if things come around, I'll touch base with them and say that I thought this would be interest to you. I thought this one would be good for you, and they appreciate that fact that you have kept them in mind. And I mean, not just because it's flagged up on a system, but because they're in the forefront of my mind because they've kept in contact. And I'm sure you speak to people on a weekly basis as well, Karen, who you think, oh, this would be suitable for them, or this property would probably suit them. And whether it's coming up for sale with us or with another agent, I mean, I think that's irrelevant.
So obviously the people that you've got that you can either put a face to or even a voice to, it makes somebody far more memorable. They stick in your head a lot easier than somebody that's just kind of, obviously, like you deal with so many emails for it, and you pick up obviously who's emailing you the most, so you know kind of who you're dealing with. But at the same time, I feel like you can achieve a lot more just on a phone call as well, and you pick up a lot more kind of maybe like personal preferences that they're maybe looking for, because they're obviously able to, the conversation flows a lot easier than just emails back and forth. And for example, we had one of our landlords that we've dealt with for years. He's obviously overseas, so it's all just being via email. So I actually got to meet him face to face the other week when we were in the office, and it was so nice to actually put a face to all the emails that we've had back and forth, because he was back in the area. So it make such a difference just being able to either speak to that person or talk to them. And obviously it does make them stick in your head a bit easier for like, oh, this, like you say, this one might be good for them, or etc. for it. So it makes a difference just seeing somebody.
Yeah, like you say, obviously building that relationships, putting a voice to that email, or even if it's through Zoom. I've done Zoom with a few people, and it's so good to, if it's been phone calls and emails and things, once you get on the Zoom and think, oh, and then it's an introduction, and then like you say, it makes them a lot more relevant. So yeah, communication is definitely key. I've got a few inputs here. James has said, I've been given the opportunity to buy a portfolio of 6 houses in Glenoffice, all tenanted and compliant in the last week. I think I might know which properties they are, James. We should have a wee chat, because I think I do. But Glenoffice is a brilliant area for buy-to-let now, so keep that one under your hat, James, or somebody will be hot on your heels. And Jimmy said here, Richard Cookern, if landlords are interested in expanding their portfolio, would you view potential new purchases with them to make sure it's a good investment? Definitely, Jimmy. I've done it a few times, a good few times in the past, and advise somebody that's not even viewed the property themselves, and have worked out to be quite good buy-to-let investments, and they are now landlords with us, and I've built up a good relationship, and they have trust in my judgment and my input without them even visiting the property, because obviously I'm advising them that the area is good, the potential for tenants is good, the rental value is good. If it's potentially even refurb to a certain degree, then cost-wise, it's worth them putting that input in there financially, because they'll see a good return. So yeah, that's definitely something we do as part of, not as part of what we do. It's just, it becomes second nature to me now, especially dealing with so much investors. And I have had a lot of investors come to me and say, spoke to their agents, and I'm not in the area, and I find it difficult because I need somebody on the ground doing these things for me, and I'm quite happy to do that. Likewise with yourself, Karen. And it says here, any successful property investor will tell you that staying in touch with a local agent is key to demonstrating commitment and finding out about new property listings first. It's remarkable how few landlords do this, but if you do it if you don't do this and wait around for an email alert, you'll just be another name on a list. Like I said, you can get lost within the copious amounts of emails that come through to any agent, I would imagine, on a daily basis, especially in today's market. The pace of things is so fast, and the demand is so high that we deal with so much stuff on a daily basis. So another email in the inbox, although we strive to deal with everybody and keep in touch with everybody, keep in touch policies are very important. It's easy to not be that prominent or at the forefront if you've not got that direct, I think, contact with a particular agent or person within any agency. And I think if you strike up that relationship, keep it. It's good to have and build on it, especially if you want to be successful with your buy-to-let portfolio. Identifying the best local agents for the type of property you're interested in, then put in some time to development the relationship and trust. Showing how serious you are, giving a clear picture of what you're looking for and what we'd like to buy, and being a regular friendly face or voice will really pay off. And I think that's a good point as well, to be abundantly clear what type of buy-to-let you look to purchase. Certain landlords and investors have their own kind of niche of property they like. Some are more into built-up areas and apartments. Some people like to look at like the family homes and residential areas. Maybe you want to target students and things during the student season and things as well. So there's all different. So you need to be clear on that as well, and give as much information and as clear a picture as you can to your agent, so that they're able to then source you the property that you ultimately would like to add to your portfolio. Would you agree with that, Kim?
Yeah, obviously the more that you know what you're looking for and relay that to an agent, the more specific they can be for finding properties to you. Obviously there's a lot of properties that are coming and going just now. Obviously the market is very busy. So it's knowing and being able to home in on what it is that you're looking for. So you're not wasting your time looking around at things that aren't going to be suitable for you. You want to know where you're looking for, what type of property you're looking for, so you know exactly what kind of market it is that you're keeping your eyes on.
Yeah, I think the rental market is so busy just now, and we see quite a lot of feedback from tenants at the moment saying, "Oh, I've inquired or put in for so many properties and lost out with our agents and lost out." And even with ourselves, we've got such a high volume that you could only let one property to one person. So ultimately, people are going to obviously lose out. But then we try our best to try and move them on to other properties that we find are going to be suitable. But likewise, I have so many landlords and investors who are building their portfolios just now, and they see it's becoming extremely difficult to find those in the certain areas that they're looking, and they're being outbid at closing dates and things as well. So that's another benefit of having an agent on your side who kind of has their finger on the pulse and potentially knows about things coming up before they're actually live on the market. Keeping an eye on like pre-portal launches, which we do on social media. And social media is just such a big thing now, where you could get ahead of the game. You really need to be on social media, especially if you're following agents like yourself that do the pre-portal launches and things before they hit. Because if you're sitting waiting on a Zoopla or a Rightmove alert, you've lost out straight away because it's gone on social media. And that's becoming more and more common, especially with a lot of our properties. So I would say definitely keep up to date and follow the relevant Facebook page for Fife properties in any area if you're looking to buy or rent, because we will pre-launch them on social media before they go online. And there's potential there to pick it up before anyone else does. It's unfortunate that when there's such a high demand in the market that people feel like they lose out, and people feel like it's extremely difficult. So you need to think outside the box and get ahead of the game and start looking in these places like social media and things, rather than just sit and wait on a Rightmove or Zoopla alert. I'm sure you'll agree with that, Karen, obviously just finishing a property search on your own.
It's such a nice feeling to no longer have to search, but it's really frustrating in that first place. You're constantly looking, constantly trying to find new properties, and you have to be so proactive about it now. Obviously, I was at the point where I was going through like people that maybe hadn't sold previously or had purchased ones, and it'd been a wee while, so I was like, oh, maybe they'd consider selling again. It was just that level of like desperation of trying to find somewhere, and the market is so hard to pick things up just now. You are having to go crazy, like over, or you're having to be like so on the ball with it to try and actually get a property in the first place. It's not like it was a few years ago where a property would be on for a few weeks and you could maybe knock a wee bit off of it. You're having to go a lot more over just now, and like I say, you have to be really on the ball. So having somebody there that knows potentially what's coming up on the market before it's even on the market makes such a difference. So obviously we know what we've got in the pipeline for properties coming up. So whether it's a landlord that it might be suitable for, or even if we've got a landlord that's maybe considering selling, we'd have other landlords that might want to purchase that one. So it's having somebody that knows what's going on. It obviously makes such a difference that you've got somebody there that can guide you to find the right property for you, and you maybe don't have to search as hard because you've got somebody on your side helping you through that process for it, as opposed to having to sit and wait for Rightmove and Zoopla updates and try and find ones and outbid. It is such a frustrating process. So having that bit of help makes all the difference.
Yeah, I don't envy you having to try and property search in the current market. I think more so for your own personal, your home, your property. I mean, it's bad enough, obviously, people looking at the moment for buy-to-let investments. I mean, there's a lot out there. It's just so difficult because there's so much other people doing it. I mean, everybody's in the same mindset. If you know if you're in the know at the moment, then they are in the same mindset of picking up buy-to-let investments at the minute because the market's so good. But it can be a challenge to pick up things if you're not in contact with the right people or looking in the right places. So yeah, but you got there in the end anyway, Karen, for yourself, so that's fine. But I like what you say about, and it's true, like you say, if you've got that relationship with managing agents and letting agents like ourselves who already look after quite a big portfolio of properties for other landlords and investors, then we know I mean, some landlords will be exiting the market, whether it's a change in their personal circumstances or, do you know what I mean? They've done it for so long, and they're looking to then obviously sell on portions of their portfolio, the entire portfolio, or maybe just one or two. But we know about them before they go anywhere. And if we've got investors and landlords looking and keeping in contact with us and at the forefront of our mind, they're going to be our first port of call and think, oh, they'll maybe be interested in picking this up. I just got a couple of messages there. Oh, morning, Charlotte. And then James has said here, it's been tough for landlords for that reason. The numbers have to work. Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. Numbers always have to work. And I think when you get to the point where you find a property with a reasonable price point and the figures work out, when you get into that kind of closing date situation, you really have to just go with your no regrets offer, really. I think we've spoke about that in training before. And yeah, I know you're always looking, James, and we'll keep you in mind. I'll speak to you about these 6 properties actually, James, that you've just mentioned. But yeah, your no regrets offer, I think we've done that in training before, and I think it's a really good concept where if you're at a closing date, put in your top offer that you have no regrets in putting in and makes the numbers work out and they stack up. And if you're outbid and somebody else picks up the property, then you leave in the comfort that that was your top and highest offer. Any higher than that, your numbers wouldn't work, so it wasn't for you. And you could walk away feeling that, not feeling kind of like you've lost out. So yeah, if you work out your numbers properly, come up with that figure, stick to that figure, and don't deviate, then whatever the outcome, you know that you've made the right decision. And that's called a no regrets offer, and I think that's a really good concept to adopt. You'll remember that from training, Karen.
I think just now in the market it's so hard just to get wrapped up in the situation and do something that potentially might not work out for yourself in the long run. So I think it's a case of you just have to be patient and stick and try and find the property that is right for you and it will work for your numbers and it's going to be the right property, as opposed to just buying something for the sake of it. I know certainly when I was looking, everyone was like, oh, are you sure that's what you need? Could you not sway on that? And I was like, no, I know what I want. And you know what, you get there in the end for it. And like you say, you have to put in your no regrets offer. So it's something that, like you say, if you don't get it, do you know what, you put in your best and you can walk away from it and it didn't. And do you know what, if it works out, then that's great. You got it for the best offer that you were able to put forward for it.
Yeah, and I think that's a brilliant thing to touch on this morning, because you yourself just experienced that. And I remember when you were offering on your property that you're like, this is what I'm going to offer, that's what I can afford. This is obviously I'm not going to go any higher, because obviously you had other things you wanted to do once you bought the property, and it worked out in your favour. But if you hadn't got that property, then you wouldn't have regretted it. You would have just moved on to the next one because it wasn't meant to be in terms of the figures and the numbers. So that's good. Yeah, James is saying here, buyers regret is incredibly hard to take. That's why I don't do property auctions. Yeah, good point, James. And it is horrible to be in that position where you regret maybe losing out and thought, oh, I should have offered more, or you regret that you got it and thought you maybe overpaid. So yeah, definitely work things out and make the right decision. Charlotte's saying, what are people looking to rent needing property type? Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And people that are looking to rent and the property type as well, Charlotte. Yeah. And I think obviously that brings us on talking about obviously no regrets offers and offers in general as financial management. And being a landlord is a business, and all businesses require a degree of financial management. And first and foremost, having your finance agreed should be the main priority before you even start viewing. And we can't stress that enough to people when they're looking for properties to purchase. You need to have your finances in place and be ready to move, especially in such a fast-paced market as it is just now. Estate agents need to make sure that whoever they introduce to a property is in a position to move, and having the money in place will make you a better prospect. And that's whether that's speaking to your mortgage advisor and having your mortgage in principle, or if you're a cash purchase, having your finances in place where you're ready to obviously put them down on a purchase straight away, where you're not going to view a property and then saying, right, okay, I'm going to purchase this, but let me go and move about a few things and move money around in accounts and things to be able to make the purchase. I think you should have it all in place and ready to move. After that, you need to consider all the costs of owning a rental property. Now, everything from mortgage repayments, insurance policies, and a rainy day fund for regular maintenance and urgent repairs. And I think that's such an important one, Karen. You obviously work. Yeah, you worked in property management for 3.5 years before you moved across to actually letting. So you're well aware of the rainy day fund and its importance when it comes to unexpected repairs and maintenance.
I am. You can't just rely on the rent coming in to pay your mortgage. You have to have that rainy day fund. We honestly cannot stress the importance of one enough. You never know what's going to go wrong, whether it's your boiler breaking down or a tap leaking. The variation on repairs is so wide that you have to have a decent. We usually advise, whenever we've done training, obviously they've advised at least 2 months rent as like a rainy day fund, because like you say, you never know what's going to go wrong, whether it could be, you could have something small like a little leak, or you could have a door handle break in, or you could have something like your roof needs repaired, or even you need a new roof. You never know what's going to come up. So having that money as a backup is such an important factor, because you don't want to be in that situation where you have this repair, it needs sorted as soon as possible, and you're trying to scramble to get the money for it. So having that bit of a reserve as a backup fund, just to be able to know for yourself that you've got the security to be able to get that fixed. You're keeping your property well looked after, you're keeping your tenant happy, and you're not having to stress about where you're getting that money from. So cannot stress the importance enough of a rainy day fund.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree. James says there that repairs, voids and compliance are the big items you need to set aside a pot for, and I would definitely agree with that. And Charlotte's asking, what are the most common repairs needed on rental properties? Charlotte, you'll know the answer to that, and so will Karen, but I think we'll all agree that the most common are boiler repairs. I think are right up there with the most common thing that's phoned into property management departments about. I think obviously whether it's be pressure drops or no hot water, and you'll tend to find this time of year, as we turn from the hotter weather into the colder weather, people are starting to turn their boilers back on in terms of the heating side of things, and that's when you start to see a lot of the repairs and maintenance coming around, and also obviously leaks and roof repairs, especially living in sunny Scotland. It does become an issue. I mean, I don't know if there's any other ones that you feel are the most relevant ones, Karen, but I think roof leaks and boilers are right up there for myself.
Yeah, I think they're definitely two of the most, especially like you say, we're coming into that time of the year where the heating's going back on, the rain's coming more, so that's when the leaks start coming in the roof, and obviously people's boilers are now, they've had all summer off hopefully, and then it comes around to the point where they're needing them constantly. So the boilers are then getting used a lot more than they have been for the last few months. So it does tend to be the time that they start breaking down. So obviously speaking to the gas engineers, they're aware of how often we have to call them out for boiler repairs around about this time of the year. So
Yeah.
they do advise, obviously, just throughout the summer months, just even put it on now and again, just to keep it ticking over, so your boiler's not getting put into overdrive, basically, when we get into the cold weather and everybody needs their heating put back on. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think when it comes to obviously like financial management, it's not essential to be a financial wizard, but plenty of landlords come unstuck by not having anything in place to deal with the unexpected. And always keep your focus on achieving the highest rents, minimising vacating dates, and protecting the long-term value of your investment. That's quite a good point as well, James. It's worth paying a few quid more for boilers for the 10-year guarantee. And I think the boiler you probably have in mind is obviously Worcester's probably the most reliable, and they come with 10-year guarantees as opposed to other makes of boilers which come with maybe 5 or 7 years. I mean, there's a lot of good makes of boilers out there, but paying that wee bit extra to have a more reliable boiler and that longer term guarantee is always worthwhile having. So yeah, definitely agree with that, James. And it will save you in the long run costs and things as well. I mean, if you've got a 10-year guarantee on a boiler and it's under warranty for that period, if it breaks down, then you've got them on hand to go and fix that as part of your purchase price. So you've not really got a lot of overheads doing continual repairs on a boiler. Yeah, so good point, James, thanks. And then that brings me on to communication. And communication in any aspect is always key. But I think with this, with the process of buying a buy-to-let property, communication with, like we've discussed about your agent, and is really key in building a relationship as well. And the way you talk to people and handle their concerns will directly impact your experience of being a landlord, from calls, emails, and texts you make to the ones you receive. So I think obviously we know that communication with tenants and landlords and mediating between that is so important as an agent and managing property. I think if you're a landlord and you're dealing with a property on your own, you need to really be aware of how you communicate with your tenant, how you build a relationship, and your methods of communication as well. They're just also important. And how you react to things that don't go to plan. Nothing ever goes to plan in property management. As much as you could have everything in place, there's always something that's going to catch you out or be unexpected. As a landlord, you need to be the calming influence, and that goes for agents as well. I think to be the calming influence in a situation where maybe one party or both parties are being a little hot-headed or feeling a little bit frustrated. It's always going to happen. If a tenant's in a home and things aren't going right, you're definitely going to be frustrated. And if things are not going right and spilling back over to a landlord, then they're obviously going to be not in the best frame of mind either. So mediation skills are definitely important, and being that calming influence, and somebody who puts a tenant's mind at rest when something goes wrong. And I think it brings you back to, can you keep your head when those around you are losing theirs? Should you've been in a few situations like that, Kim?
yes, obviously you're going to get people that are phoning up, going back to boiler repairs. Somebody's not got heating or hot water, they've got young kids in the property, they want that fixed as soon as possible, and obviously sometimes they need parts that you have to wait a couple of days on them coming in. So it's just trying to manage that so the tenant's kept up to date, they know it is in hand, it's being dealt with, and obviously keeping the landlord up to date because they don't want their tenant to be upset. So it's just kind of handling the situation to keep people as calm as possible, and so they know that there is a resolution coming to it, and obviously that you are being proactive to try and get this fixed for them. Even as well, when tenants get in situations where perhaps obviously things have been quite hard for a lot of people recently just due to COVID. So some people have maybe taken a hit on their pay, some people have maybe lost their jobs. So obviously dealing with rent arrears, it's not always the most straightforward for it. Obviously people need to be able to deal with their financial situations, and firstly for people trying to open up and say, look, maybe I can't afford the full rent this month can be hard enough. some people like to bury their head in the sand about it. So it's just trying to deal with that. So you're getting a resolution to it, and the tenant isn't just freaking out that they can't pay their rent. So it's trying to, and then obviously dealing with the landlord side of it as well, because perhaps they're waiting on that money coming in to be able to pay the mortgage on the property. So it's just trying to mediate that situation to get a resolution to it and keep everybody as calm as possible.
Yeah, definitely, I would definitely agree. And it's all about it's about managing expectations, whether that be the tenant, the landlord, or both, obviously simultaneously. And your tenant needs to feel like they're looked after and informed, which means adopting like a caring tone on the phone, reassuring them that you'll get onto the problem straight away, and then staying in touch over that progress. I mean, that's something that I'm sure every managing agent will experience. If you've got a lot of repairs and things going on at one time, if you've been on the phone to a tenant and set out to them, right, I'm going to do this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to you. If you've not went back to them when you've set out and promised to go back to them, they're going to be on the phone because they thought you forgot about them. And you might be thinking in your head, I've not forgot about them, so I think it's setting out an agenda, like, right, this is what's going to happen, this is how we're going to rectify this, and trying to stick to that. And I think even if that doesn't work out, and maybe the contractor's delayed, or the contractor is rescheduled, or you can't get a hold of the contractor, or whatever happens, it's delivering that news back to the tenant and the landlord to say, right, this is the situation now, we're going to have to maybe reevaluate and change, like it's going to be the day after tomorrow now. Do you know what I mean? So even if it's not good news, you need to update them with what's going on, whether it's good or bad news, because either way, if you don't update people, they think you forgot about them. And you'll have had that obviously over the years, Karen. I know I have, and you definitely have to manage people's expectation, and if you set out an agenda, stick to it.
Sake of making that one phone call just to give them a wee update on it can make such a difference, that they know that you still have it in hand and that you've not forgotten about it. So it's just a wee bit of reassurance for them that you know that something is still being dealt with, and even whether that's just giving that landlord a call just to say, look, I've got this sorted, the contractor's going out on X day. Like, it's just so they know that, you know what, you are dealing with it and it is being fixed for them. And sometimes as well, it always seems to happen that properties just all go wrong at the same time. Like, you could get the boilers breaking down, you've got something leaking, something breaks. Like, some properties just get really bad spurts. You can not hear a peep out of them for months, and then everything just happens at the same time. So in situations like that as well, where there seems to be like a list, for example, of things that seem to be going wrong, it's easier, I feel, just to go out and actually have a look at it. Be like, right, that's fine, I'll come out and I'll do an inspection for it. So you can see the tenancies that you're out, you're looking to see what actually needs fixed, what we can get resolved, and it makes it so much easier just to see what the actual issues are, as opposed to trying to deal with people over the phone or trying to figure out what's gone wrong from the tenant's description of it. Sometimes it's easier just to go out and actually have a look at it, and then you have a clear plan of, right, this needs fixed, this is how I'm going to get this done. And they can see you've been out, you care about it enough to come and actually have a look at it to see what you can get fixed for it. So it's just a wee bit of reassurance for them, and it makes it easier for you as well, because, like I say, you've seen what's actually wrong with it, so you know how to go about getting it fixed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a good point. That being proactive, I think, is the best thing there. And like you say, sometimes it's easier just to nip round and have a wee look at it and get a better idea of what is actually the issue. I mean, we've done that a lot with things, and I think whether the tenant thinks it's getting repaired or rectified straight away, they could see that you're making the effort and you're being proactive, so that they are obviously settled and accept the fact that, right, okay, they're doing something about it, and that kind of reassures them that obviously that the issue is going to be rectified, whether that be as quick as possibly they would like it to be, but at least to know something's been done about it. And I think, yeah, that definitely the proactive approach of maybe just turning up and saying, look, I'll nip round just now and have a look at it, just to see, to better allow me to relay to contractors what the issue is. Or a good point, and I think that's good practice and of a property manager and property management side of things, and it's something that we obviously do on a regular basis. So there's
opportunity.
Sorry, what are you gonna do?
It gives you the opportunity as well just to manage the expectations of it as well. So I had one just the other week, and it was just niggly things like, look, I'll just come out and have a look at it. So it was coming out, and I was like, right, we'll get somebody out to this, hopefully this week for it. And then there was like, they ideally needed new wardrobes, because not because they were broken, just they were very old, but it's something that I knew the landlord would be happy to do. So I was like, look, they will get fixed. However, obviously there is a delay with that contractor because they're on big jobs just now. So it's just setting that expectation of, look, this is urgent, we'll get this fixed. We will get around to this, but it'll be a wee bit longer for it. So, and it was just from having somebody that was quite, that could have been quite aggravated to start with, just because there's all these little niggly things, as opposed to when I left, they knew what was going to be getting fixed, a timeline of when it would be getting fixed. And because we have that relationship with the landlord, it was, I knew, I was like, right, I know I'll be happy to get this and this done. And when we did relay the information to them, they were absolutely fine. They were like, right, that's fine, go get it fixed.
Yeah,
So
like
it's all those relationships.
yeah, like you say, it's setting an agenda of what, like, this will be done and this will be done, and because you've went there, put eyes on it, you're like, right, okay, because we do tend to find there's a lot of tenants that will have maybe a small list, hopefully, of like obviously teething issues and things that they want addressed. So it's obviously breaking that down into like, right, okay, these are priority, these need done, and these are not so important. They will get done, but it'll take a wee bit longer time. So then they have that expectation of, right, okay, they're going to fix these first, and then we'll come back to these, and it just keeps everybody obviously on the same page, and that's good communication and good mediation and good management, really. So yeah, communication is incredibly important to everyone, but it's easy to fall short when it comes to keeping people informed. Remember that not knowing what's happening can turn into a bigger frustration than the problem itself, and that is definitely an issue that for all the sake of one phone call takes. If you don't do that phone call just to update them, whether it's good or bad, it could then kind of exacerbate the situation further than what it should have been in the first place. So yeah, some good insights on communication and obviously expectations there, Karen. So thanks for that. And then organisation. I think owning a buy-to-let property comes with obligations for a landlord and expectations from a tenant, and keeping a home comfortable and legally compliant. So an excellent question to ask yourself and answer honestly is, how organised are you? And I mean, not everybody is quite, and some people find it difficult to be organised. And I think sometimes when it comes to legislation, and I do go and see a lot of new landlords or maybe people that are new to investment, and talk through with them what the responsibilities are as a landlord or an investor in owning a buy-to-let property. And when I start to run through legislation and everything that needs to be in place and things that you need to keep up to date with, and I could see some people's minds boggling as I speak to them. And sometimes I try to, and then if I notice, I think that's the case, then I kind of stop and then try and say, look, I know obviously some people find it overwhelming, and I think really it's not to me, but obviously everybody's different. If you just methodically think about it, right, okay, I've got that, I need to put this in place, it's things like, I think your important things are right up there, like your mortgage, your insurance, your landlord registration, and then look at obviously gas, electric, EPCs. Do you know what I mean? And then just do it in a list kind of format to yourself, and work through it in a methodical process. So yeah, I mean, not everybody's that organised, so maybe it's good to have an agent who, like I say, obviously knows how to work through it in a methodical process and kind of tick it off as you go along, basically. We do provide kind of like an advice for landlords information pack, and it's quite a good thing for new landlords, which and I do say to them, treat that as a checklist, work through that and say, right, okay, I've done that, and that keeps you right. Yeah, James, thanks. That's why a good agent is incredibly valuable. I hope you've got a good agent, James. So yeah, organisation and methodical thought processes, I think, are key.
Organisation goes on, obviously you're going beyond all your, obviously you have to be organised in this aspect, like you say, of making sure your mortgage is in place, making sure the property is compliant, but you've also got it in the aspect as well of, if something goes wrong and you're having to get quite a big repair done of the property, making sure you're organised enough so that whole process is getting followed and as quickly as possible and as correctly done as possible. So for example, what I mean by that, like if you've got an issue of damp in the property, for example, obviously potentially that's going to need the plaster stripped out. But once that damp work is all done, you then need to get it redecorated. So it's just making sure that you are organised enough to know what the next steps are going to be, to then be able to follow through that process and make sure that everything is getting done and getting done correctly. Because again, happy tenant, long-term tenant, less void periods, pay the rent.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's the long and short of it, really. And I think that organising works is important, and how it's organised and how it's executed. Especially things like, obviously, if you've got apartment blocks and flats and things where there's mutual repairs, and do you know how that's orchestrated and how that's managed is really important, because you've not just got your tenant involved, you've got other tenants and other landlords involved, and you all need to kind of mutually agree to what's going to be going on, and everyone's going to contribute equally as it should be. And yeah, so, and then James has chipped in here, obviously, tax returns, insurance, mortgages, you have to be on top of it all, these as well as the lettings itself. Yeah, definitely. But I mean, like I say, and I think when it comes to like mortgages, insurance and tax, and a lot of people feel kind of out their depth, but like I say, there's always somebody, whether that be your financial advisor, your letting agent, or anybody. Do you know what I mean? There's people there to refer back to get the right information and get the right advice on what you should be doing. So I think it's key to have the right people. There's a difference between looking after your home you live in and dealing with problems that come up somewhere else. Organising repairs and maintenance between tenants and contractors requires time and effort, and not always at a convenient moment. Well, we could vouch for that, Karen, about obviously repairs and maintenance appearing at obviously the strangest times, and not always through office times, obviously out of hours, whether that be weekend. I mean, I've had stuff Christmas Day and things throughout the year.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that is common, but I have had Christmas Day, and I've dealt with it. And I think if you've got an agent that will do that, then I think you're very lucky, because there isn't a lot of people that would be on call and available on Christmas Day. So luckily it's not something that happens a lot, but yeah. So yeah, and Karen, obviously the communication between contractors as well, having good, reliable contractors who go out when they say they're going to go out. You know they're going to go do a good job. They're going to do it at a reasonable price. I mean, I think that's really important, not just for landlords, but for agents and things as well. I mean, if we didn't have half of the reliable contractors that we have, our job would be very difficult.
It's obviously, you need to have a good relationship with the contractors. You have to be able to trust them as well. I mean, we have a lot of tenants that, for example, work full time, so it's them knowing that, do you know what, this contractor office and go, and we trust them to be in their home without them being there, so the job can get done. It's not causing disruption to the tenant, and it's a trustworthy person that's going to be in their house just to get the job done and be on their way again. So it's having that level of trust and reliability for them as well. Obviously, our job would be a lot harder if we didn't have the good level of contractors that we do for it. So it's having that relationship with them to know that you can trust them and rely on them.
Yeah, I mean,
and have phone them on Christmas Day if need be.
yeah, have one that will pick up the phone on Christmas Day if need be. But yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of good contractors, but the demand for contractors, the increase in material cost and everything at the minute, we're looking to expand on our contractors list just now, because we've just got so much going on. And I think as we grow and more properties and buy-to-let properties and investors and things are coming to the market, yeah, we're continually looking to expand. So there's my pitch for new contractors. If you're out there and listening, definitely give me a message. I think coming back to the organisation side of things, like I say, not everybody has the skill of being super organised, but like I say, it's easy just to try and put things into maybe even just a list format. Maybe a good start is to schedule annual safety checks, regular maintenance, service contracts, policy renewals, and mid-tenancy inspections all in advance. So when you've got the tenancy starting, look at when these dates are going to be and have them all scheduled in and booked in a calendar and booked with the contractor or booked with yourself and the tenant. Like, your first quarterly inspection is going to be on this date. Are you okay with that in advance, and mark it in the calendar? And then maybe do a follow-up just a couple of days before to make sure they're going to be there. Inspections are a difficult one, Karen, for tenants who agree and then cancel. And do you know what I mean? If you're doing inspections and you have maybe a certain area mapped out and you have maybe 5 or 6 in one area, one after the other, and inevitably you're always going to have maybe your third one in or cancel, and then you're left hanging about, and then do you know what I mean? It could be quite disruptive to your schedule. So having that all pre-organised is quite good, and following up beforehand to make sure that they are going to go ahead as planned is quite important.
It is, yeah, just making sure that even a wee reminder text just to check that they're actually still going to be in, because even if, like you say, if one cancels, it throws your whole schedule off if you're doing like a block of them, or if you've got somebody that forgets about it, you've potentially driven all the way out there and they're not even in. So it is just even like a wee text beforehand, or usually arranging them a wee bit closer to the time as well, as opposed to like maybe 2 weeks in advance. Like most people aren't going to remember that. So yeah. I'd say at least if you're doing an inspection, maybe at least give them like a week's notice, just so you can try and arrange that for as soon as possible, but still within a reasonable time scale for them, for accommodating the tenant as well, so they remember and it's not throwing your day off.
Yeah, I think maybe not too far in advance, like you say, because things change and people maybe will only commit to something that's too far down the line. But I think it takes a lot of pressure off people, and in the long run, if you do it obviously in advance to a certain degree, whether it be inspections or have gas safety checks or any other checks set up prior, rather than them all being organised last minute, which puts pressure on the tenant, it puts pressure on your own schedule. So yeah, definitely think ahead and have things pre-scheduled. You want as much running like clockwork as possible to reduce thinking time and to minimise the chances of forgetting about an important date yourself. Obviously, we have systems and diaries and things to obviously remind us. There's no way we could ever remember all the appointments and renewals and things for the properties that we manage, but that's obviously our job on a daily basis. But what you need to remember is if you're a landlord and going to be doing it yourself, you are actually running a business, whether you have 2 properties or you have 20 properties. So yeah, being organised is a key thing. And it says you also need contractors to call so you can attend to problems quickly and maintain good relationships with your tenants. We'll cover that. You obviously having the right contractors on hand to pick up the phone to whenever you need them, and ones that are going to be responsive to that as well. At a basic level, having a reliable electrician, plumber, gas engineer and general handyman in place will save you frantic phoning around at the last minute and avoid the uncertainty of who might turn up. And that's a good point to have, to look at the different areas, whether it be handyman, joinery, electricians, gas and plumbing and things. Have that one main point of contact. But I think always to have a backup as well. We obviously have our main contractors, we've got backup contractors. I mean, we've got several of each. And I'm sure you'll agree that that's the way that you should be doing it, because not always everybody's going to be available when you pick up the phone.
Exactly. You could get somebody that's either fully booked or even they're on. Like, you never know what's going to come up, so it's always good to at least have 2. Just even somebody as like a backup, just so you know when you're not scrambling trying to find it like a new contractor that you've used before or somebody that has used them. So it's kind of a hit or a miss whether they're actually going to work out or not. So obviously, unfortunately, you do get a lot of contractors out there that are not the most ideal. So it's obviously making sure that you're going for somebody that's reliable.
Yeah, that's the thing. If it's new contractors to you, you do need to kind of establish whether you are able to work together, whether their level of workmanship is what kind of standard you're looking for or the landlord's looking for, and also pricing and costing as well. I mentioned here, obviously, we know that labour costs and material costs and things have increased recently. I think obviously maybe not all landlords are aware of that, so you need to maybe relay that to them. If you're obviously arranging works for a landlord as an agent, which I know we have had to kind of bring to some people's attention because costs have went up slightly, but we obviously strive to always try and keep things competitive. So James is saying there, you know, the headache I've had with getting a landscaper. It's looking good now though. Actually, James, I've seen that on social media. It was looking quite good. So yeah, but I mean, it is what it is, but you get there in the end as long as the job's done and it's done properly. Obviously, sometimes timescales don't always work to what they should be. But I think, yeah, you got to the end of that and it looks good, so that's good. And it's worth deciding at the from the outset whether you would like to be a fully hands-on landlord or you'd prefer to have a managing agent to take care of things for you. And I think if you are looking at maybe running buy-to-let portfolios alongside still working, then do you have the time to properly look after them if you're going to have multiple properties, or really you should look at an agent and what they could do. I know what we do on a daily basis every day. So if you are looking for passive income while you continue to work, then probably a managing agent is your best way forward to do that. So definitely speak to your local agent and see what they could offer you in terms of a managing service. There's a lot that goes into being a landlord, but you don't need to do everything yourself. In fact, you can stick to the fun stuff like looking at homes, then outsource everything else for a truly passive income. And that was the point, obviously, I was just making there. So I think that's the key point for today. I think I would take away, if I was a landlord and investor, like obviously to look at what my ultimate goal was to do. If you want to be, some landlords do retire and want to have a small portfolio and run it, and that's fine. Just obviously take all these points that we've spoken about today into consideration and make sure you've got the right people on hand to advise you or assist you, whether that be contractors, financial advice from mortgage brokers, or even a letting agent like yourselves to refer back to and get the right advice on whether that's legislation or areas for property and rent values and things as well. So final thoughts, Karen, you got anything to add and what you take away from today and what you think the advice is?
So obviously everybody's got very different circumstances as a landlord, so making sure that you're going to be getting if, for example, if you're doing a portfolio, you're going to have an agency that is going to be the right fit for you. So you've got somebody on hand to deal with that, but everybody's got very different life experiences just now, whether they're working just now and they just want that extra bit. So establishing your situation to make sure, one, that you're organised in the first instance, and secondly, if you've actually got time to be a hands-on landlord, or if it's just going to be easier for you having that passive income and being able to have an agency dealing with the work. Because I mean, for example, it is a full-time job, so sometimes it is easier to have a letting agent doing it for you.
Yeah, definitely. And that's about at the hour mark this morning. So thank you for joining me, Karen, and thanks for everybody joining in. Thanks, James. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Angela and Charlotte as well for your comments. It's good to have to be able to interact live on the show and kind of answer questions. It's great. So that's us for today then, guys. So thanks for watching and thanks for joining me, Karen.